I want to tell you a story about a mistake I made, a big one, really early in my career. It was one of those moments that honestly taught me one of the most important lessons you can ever learn out in the field. This isn't just about a piece of equipment failing. It's about judgment, it's about pressure, and it's about that exact moment you have to make a tough call and stand your ground. And it's so true, isn't it? Every single one of us has that story. For me, it involves a VRLA battery that literally cracked wide open, a full building evacuation, and yeah, a really hard lesson learned. It's a story I've carried with me for years, and it's one I think every single technician out there needs to hear. Okay, so picture this. I'm a pretty new field service engineer. I'm on what I thought was just a routine maintenance call for a UPS system over in Hoboken, New Jersey. I figured it was going to be just another day, another standard job. Boy, was I wrong. Now, back then, it was pretty common for us to load test VRLA batteries. That's valve-regulated lead acid. It's basically a stress test. You hit them with a heavy load to see how they hold up. The thing is, this puts a ton of strain on the battery. And if that battery is old, well, this test can be the one thing that pushes it right over the edge. The second I got on site and laid eyes on the system, I knew something was off. This is right where my routine job started turning into a real conflict, a clash between my professional judgment and what the customer was demanding. So the batteries were 7 years old, which right there is pushing it. But their condition was the real alarm bell. I mean, they were visibly swollen, corroded, just nasty. My professional opinion was instant. These things are not safe to test. They need to be replaced. Period. End of story. I was really firm with the customer. I told him straight up, look, these batteries are in horrible shape. If we do this test, they could crack, leak acid. This is a bad idea. I made the risk crystal clear. Or at least I thought I did. And right there, we had a standoff. On one side, you've got me, the expert on site, warning about a clear safety hazard. On the other side, you've got this customer who was, well, he was aggressive about it. He just kept saying, I paid for the full service and I expect the fall test. He did not care what I had to say. And this was it. This was the moment. I was still pretty green and the pressure from this guy was intense. And despite everything my training and my gut were screaming at me, I made a decision that I still think about to this day. But before I tell you what I did, just ask yourself this. When you're the expert, when you're the one on site, what's your ultimate responsibility? Is it to the person paying the bill, or is it to safety and doing the right thing? I caved. I did. Against my better judgment, I let the customer's demands just steamroll my own expertise. I decided to go ahead with the load test, just hoping, praying that my gut feeling was wrong. It wasn't wrong, and I didn't have to wait long to find out. I didn't even get past the second battery in the string. I heard this loud crack, and yep, the plastic casing split wide open. It was the exact thing I told him what happened. The failure was immediate, and it was catastrophic. The aftermath was just as I predicted, but honestly, way worse. You immediately got hit with that horrendous smell of sulfuric acid. The whole room filled with hazardous fumes. It got so bad we had to evacuate the entire building. My so-called routine job had just turned into a full-blown hazmat situation. Now, you might be thinking, well, the customer was at fault, right? But that's not how the real world works. When I got my manager on the phone and explained what happened, the conversation wasn't about the customer's bad call. It was about mine. This is almost exactly what my manager said to me, and I will never forget these words. He said, "You should have refused. You document everything in the service report, you call me, and we back you up, 100%. The expectation was totally clear. My job wasn't just to be a technician. It was to be the authority on safety. I tried to defend myself a little bit, I asked, well, where's the written policy that says I have to do that? But it was a weak defense, and I knew it as soon as I said it. It didn't matter. The real lesson, the unwritten rule, was that I was the expert, and I had failed in my responsibility to prevent exactly what had just happened. That mistake, that awful day, it became the foundation for how I've handled myself ever since. I ended up creating what I call the Stand Your Ground playbook, a simple, clear strategy to make sure you never, ever make the same mistake I did. It's a really simple 3-step protocol. Number 1, refuse. You politely but firmly refuse to do any work you think is unsafe. Number 2, document.
You write down everything, your findings, what you recommended, the fact that the customer insisted, all of it goes in the field service report. And number 3, escalate. You get on the phone with your manager or tech support right then and there. And let me tell you, that field service report, your FSR, it's not just a piece of paper. It is your most powerful tool out there. It's the official record, it protects you, it protects your company, and frankly, it even protects the customer from themselves. Good documentation is everything. And look, refusing doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it. You can be polite but firm. Use phrases like, "I'm sorry, but for safety reasons, I just can't perform that test." And then you offer the safe alternative, like immediate replacement. Suggesting a call with your manager is a fantastic way to de-escalate the situation. You're just framing it as, hey, I'm trying to protect you, your people, and your equipment. That one really bad day in Hoboken ended up defining the rest of my career, but in a good way. It taught me that my technical skills were only half the job. The other half, maybe the more important half, was having the integrity and the courage to stand by my expertise. So that's what I want to leave you with. It's easy to follow the rules when everything's going smoothly. The real test is when a customer is breathing down your neck and the pressure is on. So you got to ask yourself, when that moment comes for you, and it will, are you going to be ready to stand your ground?
If you'd like to learn more, read Mastering Uninterruptible Power Supplies, Field Service Engineering. Available on Amazon, just search Mastering UPS.